Next up, an in-depth review of India's foreign affairs. And speaking of foreign affairs, Jollywood star Malesh was spotted with a 22-year-old Brazilian supermodel, Lana Kova. Now that's a real foreign affair. Looks like trade isn't the only thing crossing borders. So tell us, do you think this foreign affair will actually strengthen India-Brazil relations? Guess Malesh.
And this is Worldview at the Hindu. Now, D-Day arrived this week for US sanctions on India after 25% reciprocal tariffs that came into play in early August. And now
Imagine a place where your curiosity is celebrated, your dreams are nurtured, and your potential is limitless. A place where learning is more than just a classroom experience. It's an adventure, a journey, and a transformation. With world-class facilities and a team of visionary experts, we craft thinkers, leaders, and change makers for the world. Here, every question sparks curiosity. Every challenge ignites passion. And every project takes you one step closer to greatness. At Christ, shape a world that reflects your vision.
Walk into the portals of Christ University to rediscover yourselves, to shape the future and sow the seeds of growth for tomorrow. This is our journey together to create a meaningful impact in the society.
This is where your journey begins, but never ends. Build connections that go beyond classrooms. Share stories that inspire and memories that last. Learn lessons that shape you for a lifetime. Yourself.
Christ is more than academics. Here, we celebrate life.
Every game is a chance to push yourself further, to compete with passion, and to rise together as a team. It's the vibrant campus life that helps you grow, connect, and prepare for the future. So march on. Let your ideas take wings. This is your future, your opportunity, your chance to build a future for all of us. Welcome to Christ University, where your journey starts but never ceases.
St. John's Medical College Hospital, celebrating 50 years of compassionate healing.
Amity University Bengaluru is a 70-acre secure and smart campus with state-of-the-art labs, infrastructure and sports facilities, offering 35+ UG and PG programs. Learn from 200+ distinguished faculty. Get placement ready through skill and communication enhancement workshops. Be part of a vibrant campus life filled with endless opportunities. Shape your future with Amity University Bengaluru.
अनेक न्यूज़पेपर शक्कर का माँ
ഡിന്നർ ചാപ്പിടില്ല ബ്രേക്ക്ഫാസ്റ്റും ചാപ്പിടില്ല നോക്കിക്കോ എന്താ ചെയ്യേണ്ടതെന്ന്
Why are you being difficult?
Read the newspaper.
The Vice President-elect C.P. Radhakrishnan on Tuesday described his win as a victory for the nationalistic ideology and vowed to work towards making India a developed nation.
Heroine phone tolanja headline news mama racing train.
Next up, an in-depth review of India's foreign affairs. And speaking of foreign affairs, Jollywood star Malesh was spotted with a 22-year-old Brazilian supermodel, Lana Cova. Now that's a real foreign affair. Looks like trade isn't the only thing crossing borders. So tell us, do you think this foreign affair will actually strengthen India-Brazil relations? Guess Malesh.
And this is Worldview at the Hindu. Now, D-Day arrived this week for US sanctions on India after 25% reciprocal tariffs that came into play in early August. Another.
Imagine a place where your curiosity is celebrated, your dreams are nurtured, and your potential is limitless. A place where learning is more than just a classroom experience. It's an adventure, a journey, and a transformation. With world-class facilities and a team of visionary experts, we craft thinkers, leaders, and change makers for the world. Here, every question sparks curiosity. Every challenge ignites passion. And every project takes you one step closer to greatness. At Christ, shape a world that reflects your vision.
Walk into the portals of Christ University to rediscover yourselves, to shape the future, and sow the seeds of growth for tomorrow. This is our journey together to create a meaningful impact in the society.
This is where your journey begins,
Ladies and gentlemen, we
but
will
never
start in a few
ends.
minutes.
a small housekeeping note
Build
for all of you.
connections
Please
that go
ensure your
beyond
mobile
classrooms.
phones are on silent. We also
Share
request you to
stories
remain
that
seated during
inspire
the sessions
and
as far
memories
as
that
possible,
last.
and no beverages and drinks are
Learn
permitted in
lessons
the
that
auditorium
shape you
except for your
for a
presence.
lifetime.
So just a few minutes and we shall start off this evening. Thank you. Check, check, check. Yeah, all right. Once again, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you to, of course, to the Hindu Lit for Life Dialogue Bengaluru. I'm Melody Austin, and this is an evening dedicated to celebrating literature, ideas, and spirited dialogue. Today, we have gathered some of the most brilliant minds in the fields of literature, politics, and culture to discuss and debate themes that resonate deeply with us. We are privileged to host this event in association with Christ University. Our associate partners are Akshaya Kalpa and St. John's National Academy of Health Sciences, university partner Amity University, Bengaluru, and our bookstore partner is Crossword. So let us embark on this literary journey with curiosity and enthusiasm. We have 3 powerful sessions lined up featuring authors, experts, and thought leaders. So it's time for us to begin right away. But before that, to formally commence the evening, we have a special message. Please join me as we invite a video message from Dr. Nirmala Lakshman, chairman of the Hindu Group and founder and chair of Hindu Lit for Life.
Very warm welcome to the Bangalore edition of the Hindu Lit for Life Festival. We are delighted to be in this beautiful city and host an evening of stimulating conversations and insights from the celebrated speakers who are here with us today. Our gratitude to them all for accepting our invitation and for sharing their ideas and experiences which take us beyond the printed page and into life itself, which is exactly the objective of great literature. We have a wonderful range of subjects that will be discussed today by our panelists. One of our main objectives as a newspaper is to be engaged directly with our readers, both in print and in our growing digital platform. And a festival like ours hopefully serves that purpose. Lit for Life will be held in Chennai over 2 days in January on the 17th and 18th, and we hope you will all join us there as well in celebration of reading, writing and ideas. Thank you all very much.
We thank Ms. Nirmala Lakshman for that inspiring message. I think we should put our hands together for that welcome message. Thank you. It is now my privilege to invite Mr. Suresh Balakrishna, Chief Revenue Officer, the Hindu Group, to deliver the welcome address.
Good evening, everybody. And wow, seems like yesterday, same time last year, we were here in Bangalore doing the curtain raiser for our literature festival, which is in Chennai on the 17th and 18th of January. There are going to be some fabulous sessions today here. If you enjoy the sessions, please book your tickets to Chennai on the 16th evening. Stay back for 17th and 18th because there's going to be much, much more for the Lit Fest out there, and you'll really enjoy yourselves. It's my privilege to welcome all of you all to the Hindu Lit for Life Dialogue 2025 here in the energetic and ever-curious city of Bengaluru. One lesson we have learned, next time we need a bigger auditorium. We are truly delighted to see such an enthusiastic gathering of readers, thinkers, creators, and conversation seekers. This year marks the 13th edition of Lit for Life. 12 years, Dr. Nirmala has been curating and creating this festival. It's a passion of hers, along with Rachna and Kritika, the other two massive pillars who make this festival what it is and famous across the country. And we are lucky to have Rachna also here with us. Welcome, Rachna. And at the Hindu Group, we believe that great literature doesn't just stay on the page, it moves through the words. It shapes what we read, watch and hear and speak. It influences cinema, theatre, music, podcasts, and ever-evolving form of storytelling. And Lit for Life has become the space where all these forms meet, where conversations deepen our understanding of the world and of each other. The theme this year is Love Every Bit of Lit. Is an invitation to rediscover literature in everything around us, in stories, in culture, in memory, and in the everyday experiences that makes us who we are. We have 3 fabulous sessions. We start with the first one is the weight loss revolution session. That's not very useful for me given my chiseled body and my 6-pack ab. But it's a fabulous session featuring Dr. Amrish Mittal, Shwetambari Shetty, who probably is the fittest person I can see in the room right now, and rightfully so, and Shivam Vij, who co-authored the book with Doctor, and that should be a very interesting session. Who doesn't want to lose weight, right? And we then move on to something of particular interest to me. I don't know if you, when young Melody, who's been a fabulous host all these years for us, announced that I was the Chief Revenue Officer of the Hindu, the next session on the flight of wealth is something I'm super interested in, right? Devina Mehra is one of the persons whose book has been shortlisted in the Crossword Awards, incidentally. One of the few financial books that's been ever shortlisted at Crossword. Financial books usually don't get shortlisted. So, Devina, best of luck. I'm sure you're going to pick up something there. Yes. Absolutely. Sanjay Baru, and in conversation with them, Narendra Pani, a sharp and insightful discussion on how wealth moves, grows, and influences society. Boy, do we all need a little more money. I definitely do. So we are going to be listening to that for sure. And the last one was extremely intriguing. When I saw the title of the last session, it said, The New Laws of Manu, Why the Poor Don't Kill Us. Right? Boy, that was pretty interesting. I'm happy to be alive. And it is led by the incomparable Manu Joseph. And he is going to be on stage talking about the book and about, of course, why the poor don't kill us. We extend our heartfelt thanks to all our speakers for being here. Thank you very much, each and every one of you, for giving us the time. Some have flown in from other cities as well, so thank you so much. It's going to be fabulous, I'm sure. Warm thank you to all our partners. Melody gracefully mentioned all of them. And to each one of you present today. It's this audience that makes LitFest successful. You guys have taken time in a city like Bangalore where traffic is not an issue at all, and made it to this place. I think it's thank you so much for all of you all for having come on time and quietly settle down. Thank you so much. And please settle in, ask questions. You're going to have an option to ask questions after each session. Enjoy the ideas that unfold tonight. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody here to the Hindu Lit for Life Dialogue Bengaluru, where words move the world. Thank you so much.
I think Mr. Balakrishna needs a bigger round of applause because your addresses are ever delightful. I absolutely enjoy when you come up on stage. Thank you so much for that. So, of course, we move on to our very first session, the weight loss revolution, a subject that has captured scientific, medical, and cultural attention across the world. So please join me in welcoming our speakers. Let's put our hands together. Dr. Amrish Mittal, along with Shwetambari Shetty, in conversation with Shivam Bij. Over to you, Shivam, and let's have a great first panel discussion. Thank you.
Is it working? Check, check. All right. I think I'll just start, right? All right, thanks everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, before we start discussing, I just want to ask everyone in this room, how many of us have gone through a weight loss journey? Going through, great, yes. Okay, that's not many hands, so I'm assuming the rest of us didn't need it, so that's fantastic, right? How many of us actually went through the journey, lost a lot of weight, and put it back on? Yeah, I think that's also something we will talk about. But, I mean, yeah, he said I probably am looking the fittest in this room, but I just want to quickly say that I think I started my journey into, I mean, we all move, but I've been moving since age 6, like dynamically, in the sense doing yoga, running with my father, because my father had diabetes at the age 35 because of a very heavily physical, the physical activity was very intense and suddenly it became sedentary. And then he was diabetic at 35, 36. And then I saw him do all these exercises early in the morning and that caught on. And from age 6, I just kept doing stuff like yoga, running, cut to dancing, a lot of sports. And today, as of now, I'm 45 years old and I haven't stopped moving, right? So, which is why I asked the question, how many of us have lost that weight and put it back on? Because it's not something that you do for a little while. It's a discipline that you have to embrace for life if you want to feel a certain way, look a certain way, age a certain way, right? And I want to kickstart because, I'm going to hand over the mic largely to Doctor because he's the bank of knowledge here when it comes to fat loss and weight loss. And of course, after I read this book, I'm a big fan. And of course, Shivam here, who's experienced it all with Doctor. But I'll just give you a little bit of my perspective because I'm in the fitness business, okay? I own fitness businesses and I'm an SNC or a strength and conditioning coach. Started my journey with dance, but here I am. And in the last decade that I have helped people lose weight, initially it was like 8 years back or 5 years back, people said, you can use drugs and bariatric surgery, and I'll be like, no, hell no. It's all about calorie intake, calorie input, calorie output, calorie deficit. That's the language all of us fitness coaches talk about, right? You really exercise a lot, you move a lot, you do some deficit and we'll work around it, you sleep well and all of that. Yes, it is true, and Doctor will also reiterate on all of that, strength training, eating right. But there are cases, and especially when we've seen people who've come to us, lost a certain weight, put it all on back, and then there'll be a lot of metabolic disorders which don't go, addressed by coaches sometimes, and then what? then people hit a wall and you don't lose weight any further. Like I already have 2-3 people in my life, part of my clients and etc., who have started using, Ozempic or Mounjaro because they literally have no other option, and it is to control and take care of their metabolic health where you probably need it. And then you talk about obesity, which most of us just look at, okay, this person needs to lose a lot of weight. But in reality, obesity is a disease, and it needs to be addressed like any other disease that we address. Right, doctor? Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opening remarks, and what you said is all correct. But the fact is that many of us, despite all our effort and despite genuinely following all advice, are either unable to lose weight or, as you said, put it back on very soon. And this journey actually, as an endocrinologist, I'm an endocrinologist, I am at Max Healthcare, New Delhi. We see all the time losing weight, putting it back on, struggling all life. Because one of our goals in treating our patients, especially with diabetes and metabolic conditions, is to help them lose weight. If they don't lose weight, then we can't control their conditions well. So the challenge is real. So what exactly is happening here? We think of obesity obviously as calorie in, calorie out. But the fact is that some people can be wired a little differently, which means that the hormones that control our appetite and satiety can be altered in some people. So it's like a gut-brain connection which gets altered. And because of that, despite whatever we do, we cannot curb our cravings for food. No, this does not mean that we shouldn't try and just say we can't help it, our brain is wired like that, but it is a medical truth that this happens. There are people who just cannot control their craving. So we have, therefore, when there is an underlying condition there, then it is labeled like a disease. So you'd be surprised that obesity was called a disease by WHO in 1997. Nothing new about that, okay? Just the awareness now is suddenly taken off. Second point there is obesity is linked to many diseases. So, which means diabetes. Everyone in the room would know, oh, diabetes has increased in India. I mean, I think we've all written and spoken ad nauseum about it. Diabetes, capital of the world, all those cliches. But diabetes epidemic in India is driven by the obesity epidemic in India. And that's an important point. Blood pressure, heart attacks, fatty liver, even many neurological conditions, arthritis, different kinds of arthritis, even some kinds of cancers.
No, and it's amazing, sorry to interrupt you, but it's amazing you told me that many of your patients who come to you for diabetes don't know that obesity causes.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
So it's even now, in 2025, practicing in Delhi, when I tell someone whose sugars are very well controlled, everything is good, I said, but you need to lose weight because later on you get into trouble. But how does it matter? All my numbers look okay. So, I mean, people don't understand the connection even between diabetes and obesity, which is the most obvious one. So this is one part of the whole story. The other part is because fat deposits across our body, not just what we see visibly, have a very serious deleterious effect on our metabolism. Therefore, obesity itself is labeled as a disease. Now, you asked a question, is obesity a disease? Yes, it is. I have my reservations about calling it a disease, which means you're calling half the world diseased, half your population diseased. But I would definitely say, well, that's also a stigma. On the one hand, we are saying we won't even call people diabetic. We'll call them person with diabetes. If I sent a research paper today for publication and I write diabetics I saw, they would say, no, we saw so many people with diabetes, not diabetics. Yeah. On the other hand, we are just saying everyone is obese. Obesity is a disease. So I would think of it as a medical condition that requires attention. That is for sure. We should think of obesity as something that should not be ignored and as something that requires attention. and not think of it as another, sort of load on our brain. Oh God, I've got this disease, what should I do? Not like that, but nevertheless, we need to understand it is a medical condition, in medical terminology classified as a disease also, but it's something that always requires attention because it leads to numerous complications and side effects.
So I'm curious to know, Shivam, why did you feel the need to use the drug?
Well,
you went on a weight loss journey.
Yeah. BMI 33 at one point. I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, which is very underdiagnosed, underrated comorbidity of obesity. And I would lose weight and it would just come back and be so demoralizing that when I heard of this drug, I said, why not? And I went to him half afraid that he will say, you don't need it, you're too young, you don't even have diabetes. But I managed to pass the test and he prescribed me the pill. It was first the pill Ribelsis. And it's an amazing feeling. Day one it starts that your favorite food is in front of you and you don't feel like eating it anymore. You feel like you've conquered food and now you can conquer the world. I think, and thereafter when he needed a co-writer, I was lucky to be chosen. I had this great opportunity to ask him everything I could have wanted to ask to work on this book. And I'll tell you very quickly just 3 data points that made my jaw drop that I learned from him. First data point is that 80 to 85% people who lose weight gain it back. And this, he assures me, is from multiple trials, good quality international randomized controlled trials, right? That means that diet and exercise has a failure rate of 85%, okay? I'm not saying that people don't need diet and exercise, they need it with or without Ozempic.
Yes, I will keep debating.
Yeah. Because, diet and exercise also have multiple other sort of benefits, like even if you don't lose weight, at least you're not getting more weight with diet and exercise. But the idea that you can, I have relatives telling me not to take this dangerous new drug and you should do it on your own, and why can't you do it on your own? And I'm saying that, data science is telling us that on your own has an 85% failure rate. Second data point, 40 to 60% of obesity is genetic. Scientists have identified exact genes that cause obesity and diabetes. And so therefore you see entire families where people are obese, right? And fascinatingly, he told me there are entire families where everybody not only has diabetes, but they will develop the same diabetes complication. So now when if you tell someone, why don't you do it on your own, why don't you do diet and exercise, you're essentially telling them to fight against their own genes, right? Third data point is that, sorry, I totally forgotten the third data point I had in mind, but this, the idea of obesity as a disease is actually also revealing and fascinating, because there is still a stigma around these drugs, these new drugs, which is the transference of the stigma of obesity itself. Lots of people hiding the fact that they're on this drug, right? There might be people in this room who are on this drug, and if you ask, they will not raise their hand. I know people like that. And I think that if we start seeing obesity as a disease, what is the dictionary definition of disease is something that prevents normal bodily function. And obesity starts doing that very early on. At a very young age, I got sleep apnea, I got sort of knee issues. And so if your normal bodily functions are being affected, then it is a disease. And if we start seeing it as a disease, what is so wrong with taking a medicine?
Yeah. So then my question, doctor, is that you recommended this route of weight loss for him because of the fact that he had sleep apnea and then maybe a few other things, and he was just not losing weight?
Yeah, so I think this is important. So obesity, what's the big deal now? What has happened now? I mean, why are we suddenly calling it the weight loss revolution? So the thing is, we all have understood, as I told you, 1997 WHO said that obesity is a big problem, right? And it is the mother of all modern non-communicable disease worldwide. So what you are seeing as an explosion of these disorders is linked to the explosion of obesity. So that's one. But it doesn't generate enough excitement in the medical profession as well as in the public till you have the right tools. So for 40 years, I entered endocrinology in 1984. So what have we been telling our patients? We've been telling them diet, exercise, make a new diet, fresh diet, go to this nutritionist, go to that one. And many of them succeed, but many of them don't. Now, or if they cross the line, we say, oh, you need to go to the surgeon. You need bariatric surgery. But there's a whole gap, let's say a BMI between 30 and 40, where we didn't know what to do, except going on advising and re-advising and actually sometimes hating seeing those patients because you're not able to offer any solutions. What you're going to tell the patient already knows that, has already been through that. So why is it a revolution is that for the first time we have molecules which we have been using. The predecessors of these molecules have been used for treating diabetes for 20 years. So they're not really new. The group is not new. The first time we had molecules that cause 15% weight loss or more. Anything 5% or above is considered significant. Now, when you cross the barrier of 15%, suddenly everyone woke up. Look, public woke up not because they were worried about their diabetes, because we already had drugs for that. Not because they were worried about their heart even, Public woke up because I can become thin. I can fit into my college jeans, I can do this, I'll be right in time for my daughter's wedding, whatever. This is a regular thing. That's what public, that's why I had to call the book The Weight Loss Revolution instead of, a metabolic or diabetes title. But for doctors, it gave us a tool to actually treat a condition, which we didn't have that tool earlier. We didn't have any tools that will promote, produce such degree of weight loss. And therefore, suddenly, doctors also got excited because the science behind these drugs is very strong. And as I said, from 2005, we've been using predecessors of these drugs, that is, forget the names, whatever, regularly in our practice to treat diabetes with 3 or 4 kilograms of weight loss. So let me also very quickly tell you what are these drugs, what is the mystery. They are called GLP-1 drugs, GLP-1. Even if you forget that, just remember there's a gut hormone. When we eat food, our hormones release incretins, like gut hormones. One of them is GLP-1. Now we were initially, when it was discovered and much was spoken about, we always thought of GLP-1 as something that went to the pancreas from the gut and stimulated insulin secretion, helped digest our glucose, food, whatever, right? So it was producing insulin response to food. That was the mediator. What was slowly realized was GLP-1 also goes to our brain. And it actually tells you to stop eating. Now supposing we were to remove everyone's GLP-1 hormone, you wouldn't know when to stop eating. There would be no satiety. You would be like my beagle, my pet beagle who doesn't know when to stop eating. We would all be like that. Because we wouldn't know when to stop eating. So now, therefore GLP-1, if you can make something that mimics GLP-1 and has a longer duration of action, GLP-1 in the body lasts a few minutes only. So then you might crack something new. So with this discovery, all research in the last, say, 15 years or so was focused on developing those kind of anti-diabetic drugs, which will do the job of insulin, of course, but will also stimulate our brain or affect our brain in a way that they can stimulate our satiety. So the preferential stimulation of satiety has been the major advance in this field. And which is why these drugs, which we are using liberally to treat diabetes, we also realize produce huge amounts of weight loss, which is very beneficial for the patient in the long run. Protects them from so many complications, but again, and we can come back to that if you like, that these are not really just weight loss drugs. They are much more than that, and maybe we can discuss that if you like when you want, that it's not just about weight loss, it's about protecting the body in many other ways, and
Just very quickly, the data point I had forgotten. is that people who get bariatric surgery, 25% of them, all the weight comes back in about 10 years, and a total of about 50% regain at least some weight. I had no idea about this, and when doc told me,
it's actually higher than 50%, yes.
So now what that tells you is that even after doctors sort of shorten your stomach pouch, the stomach pouch comes back to size because obesity is all here. That is why these drugs are so successful and powerful, because they're working on your brain. They're fooling your brain into thinking you are not hungry.
Yeah. So we all know that bariatric surgery is invasive, right? And one has to go to the doctor to get it done, and most people fear it. So it wasn't easy for one to just get it done. But with these drugs now, the accessibility is going to be so different, which means if not done under the right supervision, can even work against you.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the subject of many of my social media posts and Twitter, etc. Basically, because two things are going to happen or are happening. These drugs, as I've already said, change the way we treat diabetes and treat obesity and so many other things which we can talk about. But the fact that they will be easily accessible or are becoming more and more accessible also lends them to misuse. Yeah. So, I mean, they are actually prescription drugs. They should be available only on prescription, but sometimes our regulatory mechanisms are not great enough. I mean, in my state, you can buy steroid at a pan shop. So, if you go to the local pan seller and say that bukhar ho raha hai, he'll give you steroid. Okay? So, I'm just saying that is the level of control we have. And as we go farther from bigger cities, it just declines the level of control. So that, of course, will be a challenge. But to a learned audience like this, in a very highly literary city of Bangalore, I would say, please see your endocrinologist for advice. It is exceedingly important. The experts in this field are endocrinologists, and Bangalore has dozens of them, very highly qualified, brilliant people. Many or most are my friends. But what I'm saying is that you please get expert advice. And the expert advice matters in 2 or 3 important ways. Number one, are you a candidate for the drug or not? Yeah. I mean, if you're 2 kg overweight and you want to take this, is complete nonsense. I mean, and I get those requests all the time. So in fact, my pet peeve these days is that those who don't require the drug but have all the resources want to get the drug because they want to lose a couple of kilograms to fit into their clothes or something like that. Okay? Those who really need the drug, uncontrolled diabetics, obese, developing complications, will say, "हमको side effects से डर लगता है, हम नहीं लेंगे." So half my day is spent in convincing people you don't need it. The other half is spent in convincing people you need it. Okay? So this is the challenge that we are facing, and that's all not because of social media and what we get to see. So you need to see an endocrinologist, because that is one part. Who should take it? That's the most important. Very crudely, those with a BMI over 30 are candidates even without diabetes. Those with BMIs above 27, between 27 to 30, are candidates if they have diabetes, fatty liver, sleep apnea, anything like that. So Shivam was a clear candidate. His BMI was 33, he had sleep apnea, he had struggled through various cycles of weight loss and weight gain. Young man, and I said, this is ridiculous, you can't. So I gave him a very tiny, gentle thing. I gave him oral Ozempic Ribelsis, which is very small dose, but it worked very well. And then he graduated, whatever, that's a separate personal story. But the second point is, that yes, you can take it. Second, someone has to explain the side effects. You can't just randomly take it and then and this happens to me also all the time. Oh, shuru kar diya. You started it and then suddenly you're in trouble. How did you start? Why did you start? Oh, my friend got it from Dubai, so I started it. What dose? How? Kuch nahi. So I think you must know how to go about it. Be prepared. Almost 50% people get minor side effects. They are not scary, but they are there. Nausea, little bit of reflux, little bit of bloating. Some people get diarrhea, some get constipation. Gut hormone hai, so gut related side effects can happen. So I think we need to be aware what to do if I get suddenly diarrhea, I'm traveling. So you need handouts to explain that, you need a nutritionist to explain that. Start a journey. You need the dose titration very well. You know, you can't just start with the dose that, because you want to lose weight quickly, I want to start with a higher dose. You can't do all those things. Like, people are doing it and landing into trouble.
I know someone who did that.
Yeah, and so you need expert advice. These are drugs, these are medications, they are not candy or churan. You need, you know, because that's how people want to treat it. People are saying, why do I need a doctor? I'll just go and, you know, I'll lose weight. So, and then get into trouble and they say drug is bad. Oh, those are terrible, don't take them. You were never a candidate anyway. So, second point. Third point is the journey of titrating the dose, and then when to stop increasing the dose, when to start bringing it down, how long are you going to be on those drugs. You can't take that call. I mean, honestly, you can't. That has to be done by your doctor. And as I said, at least your primary or one consultation or guidance, preferably the whole route, but should be with an endocrinologist. And I think that's really, really important. Everyone is prescribing it. I just saw an advertisement in Gurgaon which said Munjaro Clinic in the newspaper. So you come every week, get your facial done, get your this thing done, we'll give you the Munjaro shot, and you go. I mean, that's how things are in this country. So a sensible person should see the correct doctor and be under supervision, be prepared for some minor side effects. Let me tell you, the gastro side effects are mostly transient. If people hang in there for a few weeks, they settle. So it's not a problem. Long-term dangerous side effects, nothing at the moment, but we can certainly talk about that.
Sure. So then the side effect part, now in bariatric surgery, we spoke about how a large percentage of the stomach pouches come back to what it used to be. But here, now, we're basically, you said that you look at your favorite food and you don't feel like eating it as long as you're on it. But when you're off it, then you're going to again feel the trigger to eat that food. So maintenance plays a big role in how you still have to make a lifestyle shift with food and exercise, like we as coaches would advise anyone who's gone through a weight loss journey, right? That it can't be for that moment, it has to be forever.
So as chronic care physicians, as chronic care physicians, we are quite used to this. Every disease that we treat is lifelong.
Yeah.
And that's why our surgeon friends make fun of us. They said your OPD is always full because you don't fix anybody. And they always keep coming back. So for a surgeon, or digressing in for a second, for a surgeon, the best patient is one who never comes back. Operation done and gone home, finished, or gallbladder, knee, whatever. For a chronic care physician, endocrinologist, the best patient is one who comes regularly for follow-up. Okay, so there is an obvious sort of dichotomy there. Anyway, so I think it's important that we do realize this fact, that when we treat diabetes, many of you may be having diabetes. Well, this is a young crowd, so I don't know, but and high blood pressure. How do your medicines? I mean, they go on, right? They go on. I mean, so the same thing. If you are in that zone where you're getting this for a clear indication of poorly controlled diabetes, overweight, multiple things, it's lifelong. If you're a young person, and you're starting it for significant, because you've put on too much weight, a young lady trying to conceive, has PCOS, needs to lose weight, right? These drugs are very good for that. You absolutely have to plan in a way that you can get off it at some point, and you talk to your doctor. That will not be less than, say, 2 years or so. Okay, so that is you have to get into it with the mindset, 2 years to karna hai, right? But then you have to sort of, who are the people we are seeing who are doing well? In 2 ways. Number one, with better weight loss, better health outcomes, are the ones who are exercising regularly and following diets which have been advised. And I'll leave it to her to specify more, but basically strength training, which has not been the focus of our advice for so many years. We were talking of aerobics and cardiac health. We were not emphasizing stress. Some patients are doing it. Now we give an exercise prescription, that this is an important component of your weight loss journey. So very important. And second is, of course, because supposing you're eating, let's say today, 2,000 calories, and you start these medicines, and it's happened, right? You lose half your weight. You lose half your appetite. It's gone. You can't look at the food that you loved. तो उसमें protein भी आधा हो जाता है. Protein also becomes half. So Indian protein intake is abysmal anyway. These days I can't even say that. People get angry. Just the science, Indians are best in everything. No. Our protein intakes are low. Okay. And there's all data is there. I mean, it's not just science. So if you reduce your overall intake from 2,000 to 1,000 calories, your protein will go down from, say, 40 grams to 20 grams.
Yeah.
So that's a disaster. So you really need good nutrition advice, if required, even supplements. Many of you may be vegetarian, so you may require protein supplements. Also, again, you have to choose the right one with the advisor for good nutrition. So, wo bhi ek story hai pura, protein supplements. So I think it is important that we enter this journey, start this journey by realizing this is a weight loss program I'm on to improve my health, and these drugs are my big support in this. But I need, for best results and to be able to taper these drugs off, as advised by my doctor, I need to ensure the correct diet, which is high protein, high fiber, and need to ensure regular exercise, including strength training. Yeah. So that's why we made handouts. I mean, most people would have made handouts which would explain all these things, because otherwise people and there are people who have come and challenged me. He said, but I don't understand. For 30 years you've been telling me to lose weight. Now you found a drug that helps you lose weight. Now you're saying I still should exercise and diet, then what's the point? I have tried diet and exercise 6 times and lost weight and it all comes back on. It doesn't work for me. Why should I just not use the drug and not do anything? So I mean, that can be a psychology.
So I think that history of failure comes in the way. However, what happens to a lot of people, and I'm not talking only about myself, but I by now know several people on these drugs. What happens when you see finally something is working, when you see finally that you can lose more than 4-5 kgs weight and it's not coming back, that there is a new sort of positivity, a new confidence, a new hope, and you take to diet and exercise again. That's true of a lot of people. You realize at some point a lot of loss of muscle mass along with the weight loss, so you want strength training. But also very interestingly, some people, particularly on Mounjaro, there are scientific studies on this, but anecdotally, their taste changes and they're suddenly craving more healthy foods. Right? They're suddenly wanting salads. I know people wanting healthy food that they never liked in their lives and now they want it, right? So this drug is doing multiple things to your brain and your body, which not all of which are fully sort of known or understood right now, which is also why I think that while I agree that nobody should take a serious drug like this without going to a doctor, but I think some of the medical guidelines about who should take it, who should not, will also evolve with new research.
Yeah. But you also strength train. I mean, it's not like you just use the drug. You are strength training.
I did not follow his advice initially, and then I learned the hard way that no, I need to fix this, and I did.
So I'll just make 2 interesting points in this context, 2 anecdotes. So one is, I'm using one anecdote, but there are several like that. One is that this gentleman who comes to me and says, I said, fantastic, you're doing so well, you've lost 12 kilograms in 4 or 5 months, and everything is good, your HbA1c, sugar control parameter, is down to 6. I mean, this is never seen. He says, yes, doc, but the stuff that I craved for all my life, I can't look at jalebis and all anymore. I mean, I feel so stupid that all the food that I enjoyed, I just can't see it. I can't see it, So, I mean, some people get, not everyone gets this, but some people do, and I found it very funny. So we sat down and explained to him that, The other was perhaps even more interesting. So let's call him Mr. Chadda. So Mr. Chadda just came and said that, same thing. I said, you're doing fantastic, everything is great, you're doing so well. Sab badhiya hai abhi to. You continue this and let's look at your diet again, exercise again. He says, But my social life is dead, doctor. I say, why? What happened? He says, I can't stand the sight of alcohol. Now, every evening my friends and I used to go out and drink. Now suddenly I'm an outsider because I don't like alcohol anymore. I don't know what's happened. So it does those funny things to some people. So, but these are good
so
things.
that's why it's being considered as a sort of leading treatment of alcoholism itself.
Yeah, exactly what I want to ask. Can that be a treatment for alcoholism?
There are very impressive studies on that, ongoing. One study has shown some benefit in treating alcoholism, but the final word is not out yet. Because you need to have statistically significant number of people responding, not anecdotes. There is definitely a trend. Every large study, including our own data now, which is not published yet, suggests that significant proportion of people develop aversion to alcohol. So, and are able to
I myself am never much of a drinker, but while I was on Ozempic, I quit 3 months ago. But while I was on Ozempic, I just didn't feel like drinking alcohol at all. But on this thing about your social life being destroyed, and it's so sad that I don't sort of enjoy my food anymore. I think for most people I know who are on these drugs, including myself, actually you tend to enjoy food more because now that you are able to eat small quantities and be happy with it, now that you're eating without the cycle of craving and guilt, you start eating some dessert and you stop after a few bites. You're not having like sort of 3 servings. So you actually enjoy food. So that is also the experience of some people. Yeah. Not everybody is miserable that, oh, I'm not eating.
No, these are anecdotes. Most people are happy. Yeah. Their social life has improved a lot because they feel good about themselves. Very happy. People who said the other way around, people who said I couldn't go out with my friends because I was always so conscious about my weight. And everyone used to say, you try this, try that. Suddenly I have that newfound confidence. I found my mojo back. And I'm feeling good about it, and therefore actually and the other thing that happens when you lose weight, exactly what Shivam is saying, lose weight initially and you see results for the first time in so many years, you get motivated suddenly. And then you follow diet and lifestyle much better because now you can see something is happening. Otherwise you had become sort of depressed or, sort of given up on that.
So even after you wean off, you still need to have certain control over food, which means you can have a macro calculated meal, correct?
That's absolutely on or off.
Yeah.
That is a given.
Yeah.
You cannot and should not, and doctors who are prescribing it, purely for cosmetic reasons is not a good idea. Not a good idea. You have to have the whole thing in place, use them like drugs, take proper advice, correct diet, correct exercise. Even so, as I said, our exercise prescription has changed from saying that you do 45-minute brisk walk with this some yoga, you have to add some strength training, which most Indians don't do.
Yeah.
Why is strength training important?
Sarcopenia.
Why is strength training important? But why muscle mass? Why suddenly now?
Protection.
Why am I prescribing now, not doing it so much earlier? And that is because whenever one loses weight through, this is very important, keywords, through whatever mechanism, through a very low calorie diet or through bariatric surgery as an extreme or through these drugs, you will also lose some muscle. So it's a proven scientific fact that you cannot lose 10 kilograms without losing 2-3 kg of muscle. Now this can be 4 kg in someone who's doing nothing, and this can be even less than 2 kilograms in someone who's following advice about strength training. So these drugs do not cause muscle loss. These drugs on the muscle, in all studies, all research has shown they're very good for the muscle. But because you lose weight, you will lose some muscle automatically. And that is why, since we didn't have tools, our patients weren't losing weight anyway. So now that they are losing weight, it's very important to emphasize strength training.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have clearly a great drug if done under the supervision of an endocrinologist. Right, doctor?
Absolutely.
But the bottom line also remains, every single human needs to eat right and exercise and make that lifestyle shift. Right? With or without the drug, you still have to
absolutely,
do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah? Should we? Okay, so we're opening the floor for questions. Yes?
Just like one develops insulin resistance after long, is there a risk of developing GLP resistance? And is it a family of ghrelins, the hormone?
So, great question actually. Well, it's not resistance per se, but definitely the effect will not continue forever. It's not that if you keep continuing the same dose, same drug, you will continue to lose weight. At some point it plateaus. They really haven't shown resistance, but there are 1 or 2 studies beginning to show some escape, but that is not. The 4 or 5 year follow-up shows that people will lose weight 1 year, 2 years, something, and then it becomes static. And then that is where the skill of the doctor comes in, how to adjust your dose, bring it to a maintenance dose and hold you on that. I have many patients who were on 15 milligram or 2.4 milligram of Wegovy. And
top doses.
Huh?
The top doses.
Yeah, top doses of the medicine. And they lost weight. One, Mr. Agarwal, lost a lot of weight. And all his medicines went away for diabetes. At 25 years, diabetes, insulin shots, you sab khadam, gone. And only that Wegovy is on. Okay. Now, then he said, what should I do now? So I gradually tapered him down to a maintenance dose, to a 1 milligram dose. And actually he's doing beautifully on that. So it's important that we learn the impact of maintenance. At the moment, to answer your question, resistance is not well established, but the effect will not, the downward spiral in weight will not continue forever.
But also more powerful drugs are coming, so that...
The future is very exciting. This has just opened the floodgates actually. The future is absolutely amazing. We may get drugs with less side effects. We may get drugs with higher potency. We have newer drugs that work on 3 pathways. Retatrutide, forget that. But newer drugs that will be there in a couple of years. Oral drugs, these are once a week injectables. Oral drugs that will match up to them. So I think for other pathways, so people have discovered, scientists have discovered that you can do something here. I expect that the next, at least this decade, or maybe next 10 years, more 10, is going to be the obesity drug decade. There's no way. I think it's not about diabetes. I think these drugs are changing the way that human health will be handled in the next decade or so. I'm not exaggerating. You can read a lot of reviews, a lot of opinions on this, including non-medical opinions, including Economist and New York Times and all writing that the menus in New York restaurants have changed because American style servings people don't want anymore. They're going waste. So a lot of implications for that.
So personally, the one new drug that I'm looking forward to the most is the one where, I'm not joking, you will lose fat but not muscle.
Yes,
that's just
there's
incredible.
a lot of work.
That's already happening, right? With this drug, we just spoke about it.
No, but right now you have to do strength training.
But you still need to strength train.
I don't know.
Doctor's going to agree with me on this one. Nothing in the world.
If a drug is preserving muscle while making you lose fat.
You will need to strengthen. Doctor, you need to support me here.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm with you. But yes, the research is very exciting. That you may have drugs that can prevent muscle loss. Yeah.
Shivan's only waiting for that drug.
No.
He's waiting for that drug where he can stop strength
I think one of them went off because the results were not good enough. One of them went off because there are side effects, but there are others in the pipeline.
Yes.
So.
Okay. Until then, my job is safe.
So welcome to Bangalore, Dr. Ambrish.
Oh, hi. You can see Maitri. Yes.
Yeah, hi. I totally agree on your comment where, the medication has to be given under the supervision of a specialist. To add to that, my question is on, any other drug interactions or contraindications, absolute or relative. What does the data show as of now?
Right. So, fortunately, drug interactions are minimal, very limited. So it can be used in so many kinds of conditions that I was very reluctant initially, but data has come out, even in oncology patients, you can use it. So drug interactions are usually not an issue. However, if you're on anti-diabetics already, a large insulin, everything, you may need to reduce the dose because otherwise you'll start getting low blood sugars. So obviously your doctor will do that for you. That is one. The other very important point that Dr. Maitri has asked is about who can't take the drug. We have a full chapter on that in the book. Who should take the drug, who can't take the drug. So people who have a history of pancreatitis, that is a pancreatic inflammation, pancreatitis history no one forgets. If you have had it, you will know it. If you have had pancreatitis, it's not a mild condition. Then you should not venture into this zone. If you have a family history, a familial thyroid cancer history, exceedingly rare, medullary thyroid carcinoma. I mean, I see so many patients, but I may be seeing one a year or something. If you have a history of that kind of thyroid cancer, you should not take the drug. If you have active eye disease or diabetic eye disease, active proliferative retinopathy and those kind of things, then also you need to ask your doctor, very carefully whether you should be taking it or not. These are the main contraindications. I don't think anything major is there other than these. Yes.
Oh, okay. Hi, doctor. There are people with eating disorder or rare genetic disorder like PWS. I know somebody with PWS. So, do you think that these drugs are effective for them too?
The drugs will be effective, but the data is not out yet. So there are reports of them being effective because you also have to be careful. People with eating disorder go the other way also. The same person can go from excess to zero appetite, even they can transition. So you have to be a little cautious there. So under a lot of supervision there of an expert, and not like immediately say, oh yeah, I know I have the drug for you. Yeah.
Doctor, you mentioned about side effects.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sorry, sir?
Take it offline. Last question.
So we forgot that part.
Yeah.
Good that you asked that. So these are not just weight loss drugs. This is now conclusive and shown scientifically. These drugs reduce our risk of heart attacks. They treat fatty liver. And they reduce the risk of kidney disease. So actually they are quite remarkable, and the most fascinating studies are on Alzheimer's, which are still to be completed, and they may actually reduce Alzheimer's and some role even in Parkinson's. But we don't know the final answer. But for these three we know: heart, kidney, and liver. No.
Yeah.
You mentioned your pet beagle.
Sorry, sir?
You mentioned your pet beagle.
Yes.
We have Zoko, who is a house pet, who doesn't allow us to eat in peace. Have you tried out anything with your beagle?
So this is a forever discussion in my house
take it offline.
that maybe we should give a small dose of Vigovi to the little fellow, but my family will kill me if I do that. So.
Okay, I think, yeah, in the interest of time, we need to close. But yeah, I think you can catch Doctor online. No, Doctor? Yeah, he said he's active on social media, so that's a good thing for the world. Yeah, thank you everyone, and I hope this was informative enough. And if you want to come and train, then you can reach out to me. Yeah, if you if you want more information on how it works, here he is.
Brilliant job.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Okay, kindly remain on stage, but I think they need a big round of applause. Such a fun and insightful session this was. So thank you to each one of you. I request Mr. Vidhu Shankar, Assistant Vice President, Advertising Sales, The Hindu, to kindly present mementos to our panelists and moderator. If you all can step ahead so you can quickly take a picture. So Vidhu, just join them. Once again, thank you to Dr. Amrish, Shwetambri Shetty, and Shivam Vij, and of course to Mr. Vidur for doing us the honors. Well, it's time to move on to our second session of the evening, The Flight of Wealth, a conversation on financial journeys, market intelligence, and the ideas that shape the movement of money. Now, before I call on our panelists and moderator, I'd like to remind you that book signing will take place on the 5th floor on the terrace post the third session. So please join me in welcoming on stage Sanjaya Baru and Devina Mehra in conversation with Narendra Pani. Let's put our hands together for our panelists and moderator for session 2. Thank you.
Good evening, and after that, okay. Good evening. After that very sort of personalized session, we move on to something that's a bit more macro, if you like. Essentially, one of the people have said, there was a podcast recently with Warren Buffett, and he made this argument that sometimes the greatest transformations happen very quietly. And one of the major quiet transformations we are seeing in India today is the growth of what the flight of wealth is what the topic calls it. But you could see it in terms of the foreign direct investment by Indians abroad. It was at the beginning of the century about $1 billion or $2 over it grew steadily. By 2021, it had become almost $11 billion. Then there has been this huge spurt, right? And in 24-25, it was $28 billion. It becomes critical, not just it's a massive growth on its own, but becomes critical in terms of what's happening to foreign direct investment at the same time. In 2021, net foreign direct investment in India was $55 billion. In 24-25, it had dropped to just about $29 billion, almost halved. And if you take these two developments together, in 24-25, we were in a situation where the net foreign investment capital coming in, that is foreign investment coming in and Indian investment going out, the net benefit was less than $1 billion. Now, this is a dramatic transformation which happened relatively quietly. And the important thing about that transformation is it's happening at a time when domestic savings is not growing. In fact, it's less than it was, it's substantially less than what it was 10 years ago. And so if you're not going to get foreign capital, if Indian capital is going out and domestic savings is declining, where's your investment going to come from? Right? It's a quiet crisis that has emerged. And it's an interesting story, but we can't get into all elements of it. This evening we'll look only at one aspect, that is the flight of capital. Why is Indian capital going out on the scale that it's going out? And when I say capital, I do mean not just financial capital, but also human capital, which is a longer story, an older story. To do that, to try and get the discussion or the conversation going, we have two authors who have looked at different aspects, very different aspects at one level. We have Sanjaya Baru, whose book on the cessation of the successful really looks at the whole process of Indians moving abroad, the creation of diaspora, as well as the financial aspect of it. Right? It's a macro picture which focuses, it is led by human capital. The focus is led by human capital. And along with him, we have Devina Mehra, who's a global, a major investor abroad. She's one of the early, her firm is one of the early movement was the right term for it, but one of the early investors abroad on a very large scale. I think towards the end of the last century, she began the whole process. So it is a very substantial. She's also, her book is, of course, looking at the whole issue from a micro perspective. It's more on investment per se, right? And it is it's something that looks at the micro. So the two books look very different. One a macro picture, one a micro picture, one financial, one human capital. But essentially, they are considering the same question as to why are Indians beginning to invest abroad. Even the human capital picture is really one of investing your entire future abroad, not just yours, but that of your succeeding generations as well. So it's a large issue, and we have the benefit of two authors and enlightened thinkers. So I think we can begin by, first of all, getting an overview and then perhaps getting into specific issues within each of them. So Sanjay, would you like to kick off?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. First of all, thanks to the Hindu for inviting me here this afternoon, and thanks to my panelists here. The book that Pani mentioned is Secession of the Successful. I call it A Flight Out of New India. There are two different things I'm looking at in this book. And it's ironical that actually this session is about flight of wealth, where we are focused on money. But I think the bigger challenge for this country, which is what I study in this book, which I draw attention to in this book, is the flight of human capital. The fact that over the last 3 decades, hundreds of thousands of Indians, highly talented, professionally qualified, have left this country. Bangalore is one of the centers. Hyderabad, which is my own home city, Chennai, Pune, these are all developed cities of this country where almost every other family has somebody or the other living outside the country. The last time that economists were worried or concerned about this flight of human capital was in the 1970s, when the economist Jagdish Bhagwati spoke about brain drain. And what I found very fascinating and shocking was that over the last 30 years, when the numbers have skyrocketed, there has not been a single systematic study of Indians leaving India and contributing to the development of developed economies. I have, for example, a chapter called Indians in MAGA, Indians in Making America Great Again, and the contribution of Indian talent to developed economies, whether it's the US or the UK or Australia or Singapore. And ironically, in the official literature, Pani mentioned the fact that in the recent last few years, outward FDI is more than inward FDI. And the Ministry of Finance records this. There's a report of the Ministry of Finance that came out some time back, which records the flow of capital, financial capital. But we have no record of the flow of human capital. We know how many Indians have given up their citizenship. I've got that data in my book. It's Answers to Question in Parliament. We know how many Indians live in different parts of the world. We know what they are doing. We know the number of corporations around the world that are run by Indians. But we have no idea of what is the contribution that these Indians have made to the development of other countries. And therefore, we have no idea of how much loss we have suffered on account of migration. The numbers are staggering. And so I call it a secession of the successful, because these are all successful Indians. And I look at the fact in my book of the changing class composition of Indians leaving India. In the 19th century, it was the poorest of the poor who left as indentured labor, working on plantations in Fiji, in Mauritius, in Caribbean, etc. Then in the 70s and 80s, there's some research that has been done on the number of Indians, working class Indians who have gone to the Gulf, mainly to the Gulf, but also to other parts of the world. But we have had no study of elite Indians who have gone out and the policies pursued by other countries to suck them out. The United States changed its immigration policy in 1966, focused deliberately on getting Indian doctors and engineers into the US. And that was the beginning of the emigration of talented Indians that Bhagwati and all were concerned about when they wrote these essays on brain drain in the 70s, in the early 80s. But for the last 30 years, these numbers have simply gone up, and we have no idea what these numbers are. So I draw attention in my book to the fact that India today has lost generations of talent, and more of us are leaving this country. The numbers of people going out is staggering. What is again ironical is that the government of India has data on Indians going out. It does not give us data on Indians returning. I've been talking about this book over the last 4-5 months in different parts of the country, and people do stand up and say, oh, my cousin was in the US, he has come back. These are anecdotes. We have no recorded data of Indians coming back. So I urge the government to put forward data on what has been the net loss of human capital and what has been the contribution that we have made. Let me end by making one point which I draw attention to, that in this entire debate that we have been having with the United States and Donald Trump's policies, the US focus has been on what is called the trade deficit, that India sells more to the US than India buys from the US. And the entire tariff war which has been unleashed by the United States against many developing countries, including India, is about trade. But why have we as a country not put forward the argument that while we have a trade surplus with the United States, the US actually has an intellectual capital surplus vis-a-vis us. They have acquired more talent out of this country than they've been able to supply to this country in terms of investment in training, in research institutions. We have, I keep making the point that in the 50s, Nehru was able to attract a lot of talent back to India. Big names like Homi Bhabha, Vikram Sarabhai, Satish Dhawan. The entire space industry came up because of a lot of return talent. Nuclear industry came up because of return talent. A lot of public enterprises. The IITs were set up by people who returned to India. In the last 20 years, we have no data of Indians coming back to set up new companies, coming back to set up new institutions, coming back to head new research organizations. None. And that's because that's not happening. And in fact, the Hindu published a very interesting interview with Venki Ramakrishnan, the Nobel Prize winner in physics, where he says that there are many countries where scientists are leaving because of lack of funding, the United States being one of them. And they don't want to come to India because research institutions in India have become excessively bureaucratic. So these are all policy issues which we need to address, and that's what my book draws attention to. I know that this session is about wealth drain or the flight of wealth. Many economists look at it as a positive development. That's look at the number of Indian companies going global, look at the amount of investment going out of the country. But I'm a very old-fashioned economist. Pani and I, we studied together at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. We have very old-fashioned views in economics. And one of the central arguments of development economics was that capital flows from the developed economies to the developing economies. It's one of the fundamental propositions of development economics. What, on the other hand, we find happening today is actually capital flowing out of a developing country like India to developed countries. By capital, as I said, I mean both human capital as well as financial capital. Let me stop there.
My guess is I think Devina might have a different point of view on this, but if you could just introduce your book and then we'll take it on to this, if you like.
So this is the book, Money, Myths and Mantras. It's now got the official tag of national bestseller, and as I said, in the crossword business books, this was the only book which was on the jury list and the popular list, so still 3 more days for the popular votes, so please do go and vote. And as was mentioned, Penguin had told me that investment books never make it to the book award list, so now that it is there, it can be pushed. And okay, coming back to this whole issue, FDI, I mean, I was one of the early ones who posted that net FDI is becoming negative, and there are two or three factors actually that contribute to the net FDI. One, of course, is Indians investing abroad, but that is still not really so large. The point is that in spite of all this talk of invest into India, we have not been able to attract that much money. Also, Indian capital markets have provided attractive exits at times, so there's also been outflow on that side. The third factor is that, interestingly, while on the capital accounts things look bad, India has become more and more of a remittance economy. I mean, we are becoming almost not as bad, but like Nepal and Philippines or Kerala of old, we are becoming a lot more remittance, inward remittance dependent. This remittance also, if you again go back a few years, used to be very concentrated from the Gulf countries. Now it is coming from the US and other developed countries. So that's again been a change. So from the working class population probably to the more educated. So that is changing. And ultimately, see, to attract either human capital or financial capital, you have to make yourself attractive. You cannot force it to come. The research institutions of old were mentioned, look at how much effort went into getting that sort of research institute set up there. I mean, ours is, I think, the only constitution that has scientific temper as part of the constitution. If you look at the way CSIR was set up, it was set up to insulate it from bureaucratic interference. By law, the head of CSIR is the Prime Minister of India, the deputy head is the Science and Technology Minister, and the structure is such that no IAS is allowed entry into CSIR. And we talked about all the people Nehruji brought back. He used to go to Palam airport to receive everybody who was coming to head a research institute. One, to show them respect, and two, to show the government that this is how important science and research is. In the 50s, which poor country had thought of space research and atomic research and cellular research? I mean, it is crazy what we achieved in the first few years of our independence, given where we started from. I tell people that don't take for granted all that we had. We had a life expectancy of around 35 years. We had a literacy rate which was in the teens. Besides all the other problems of poverty, divergence of religion. So it takes a lot of effort, and you have to make it attractive. I grew up in Lucknow. In Lucknow alone, we had so many research institutes: National Botanical Research Institute, Institute of Paleo Sciences, Central Drug Research Institute, Institute for Study of Aromatic Plants, the Railway Research Institute. I mean, just so many in one single city. That is how much effort you put in. I mean, it was surprising to me when I started traveling to the rest of Asia in the 90s, that even till there, barring one or two exceptions, there were not even MBA institutes there good 30 years after our IIMs came up. In Indonesia, Citibank used to hire engineers or MBAs who had studied in the US or Australia, because there was no MBA in Indonesia. So this is, you have to make the circumstances such that it becomes attractive. Otherwise, people vote with their feet. And that is true of human capital. Financial capital, I would say people go, but I mean, even now, I mean, my own, and this is something I talk about at length here, is that Indians don't invest enough abroad. If you look at it, Indian portfolios, because India is not even 5% of the world market cap, so there's no reason why 90% of your capital or 100% of your capital should be in India. And that really was my motivation, more than 25 years ago, to go global. Because after the Asian crisis, I said, this is the danger of being in one market, that in 1 year, your net worth can be eroded by 50 to 90%, as happened with all the Asian tigers. The markets fell that much in dollar terms in one single year. So we were the first Asian members of the London Stock Exchange, other than the Japanese in '99, and then the next year of the US Broker-Dealer Association. So you have to think globally. In fact, I think the Indian companies still don't think enough globally. You don't have a single consumer brand that has come out of India and that has any global standing. Every Asian country will have a few brands, let alone the West. you are still too comfortable with your domestic market. I mean, there have been a few acquisitions here and there, but not that many who have tried to build anything globally, even in terms of IT. I mean, I'm in the IT city, and this has been my bugbear for over 20 years, that Indian companies have stayed focused on their almost low-end work. I mean, they have pivoted within, many times within that. But in spite of so much cash on their balance sheet, in spite of access to technically trained human capital, they have not tried to move up the value chain the way, let us say, China has always. China started with low-end manufacturing, and look at how rapidly they moved, how focused they have been on technology and R&D. And I do not think we are doing anything of that kind, of either global brand building, of either R&D at a corporate level, let alone fundamental technical research. And ultimately, those are the things that will make you attractive as a destination to retain human capital, to attract financial capital. There is, I am not even sure whether we are, I mean, that's really our goal, or we are working towards that. That's the whole point. I mean, you will reach the goal only if you admit there's something to be done to reach that goal.
Yeah, thank you. Both of you have pointed out basic limitations in the whole process of what we are doing. But why has that happened? Because both of you have also mentioned that we had things better earlier. Why has that decline occurred? Why are we today in a situation where research institutes, I remember there was a time when the Delhi School of Economics was considered a very major global institution. It no longer has that status, and most other places also don't. Issues that if you talk of a developing country that has not yet got there, we can say, all right, you follow the measures somewhere else. But if you were there and then have lost it, why? And what can be done about it?
I think you've lost the focus. I mean, that is what the whole point was, that in the beginning you had that focus that we have to achieve all that thing of temples of modern India. And, you know, that's, I mean, today you are spending more time talking about that we had great science 10,000 years ago than to work on science today. That is, I mean, where is the focus?
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with everything you've said, ma'am. And my argument in this book is precisely that in the 50s, there was this concept of building a nation. The real new India was the new India of the 50s. And I can give you any number of examples, as she mentioned, of Nehru personally contacting highly talented Indians who are working in different parts of the world to come back. And I make the point that when Prime Minister Vajpayee decided to make January 9th the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, the symbolism of that was the day then Mahatma Gandhi returned to India. And the entire national movement, if you look at the history of the national movement, where people came back from whatever they were doing outside. Gandhiji went to study in London, got a Barrett degree in London, worked in South Africa, and returned. So the symbolism of Pravasi Bharatiya was of Indians acquiring education, acquiring experience, acquiring intellectual capital, and then coming back to build India. But the way in which Pravasi Bharatiya Divas has evolved over the last 20 years is that we celebrate the success of Indians outside India. Every time the Prime Minister goes out, he is meeting Indians and saying what great things Indians are doing all over the world.
I mean, many of them won't even admit to being Indians.
Yeah.
I mean, none of these CEOs that we celebrate stood up for Indians when Trump was doing whatever he was doing to H1B, etc. So so we are trying to appropriate people who do not want to celebrate their Indianness.
My school is the Hyderabad Public School, and my school celebrates the fact that Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, a whole lot of Ajay Banga, the president of the World Bank, a whole lot of chaps from my school are doing very, very well outside. And I keep telling my alumni association that what is wrong with you guys? I mean, you're celebrating the success of your alumni who have left this country. And that is true for many, many institutions. I have one data point in the book on when this phenomenon actually took off. I took several schools in New Delhi, and looked at their alumni. If you look at the data from 2000, I have the data from 2000. From 2000 to about 2010, the numbers are minimal. Every batch of students, 2 students, 10 students, 15 students kind of leave. And then the numbers skyrocket after that. So much so that today in several top schools in this country, and I have data only for Delhi schools, 100% go out of the country after 12th class for undergraduate education. And there's an entire industry that has developed that encourages this. I have a whole chapter on the growth of what are called IB schools, International Baccalaureate awarding schools. These are all schools which advertise that you come to my school, you can get out of the country. And the number of companies that offer you visas to in different parts of the world. So there's a whole business that has been created under our eyes over the last 20 years. This phenomenon is not, more than 20 years. The numbers are staggering in the last 20 years of those who leave this country. And I keep thinking that maybe Donald Trump has done us a benefit by actually coming down on immigration. I don't know how long he will stick to that. But I think the flight of intellectual capital is a serious challenge. It is a bigger challenge than the flight of financial capital.
In fact, let me just add to that, see, America had a very particular place in the whole world. It was not just a rich country. It was a rich country which was supposed to have, great institutions, rule of law. I mean, I think US has one of the worst justice systems in the world, but it had that aura, rightly or wrongly, that it had rule of the law, it had freedom of speech. And what President Trump has done is actually hit at the foundation of all of that. And that was the reason it could attract literally the best and brightest from around the world. There were other rich countries like South Korea or Japan or even Germany which would not attract that talent. And other countries have taken advantage of this. I mean, currently a lot of the Asian and European countries are contacting critical researchers in whatever field and saying, here's the blank check, just shift with your lab or whatever it is. But we are not even focused to either attract Indians, erstwhile Indians back or anybody else back, because where are we? I mean, we are nowhere on the research scale, and I don't think that's a focus area for us.
Since there's a consensus that people are going out, it's a deeply entrenched trend. What is the consequence of that? If we could begin with the stock market itself, that if capital is moving out at this pace, and is there any connection between this FDI and portfolio investment, or is that completely
No, portfolio investment, as I said, I think Indians invest too little abroad. So that is not really I would say that is the concern area, because at a portfolio level, you should invest more than you do, in general for Indians. And FDI abroad is also not a wrong thing to do. The point is you're not able to attract enough capital inside. That's the problem. I don't think you should say that now Indian companies should not invest overseas, because anyway they're not doing too much of that. But you should have more investment coming in, which you have not been able to attract. You've had all these jamborees, where supposedly so much of MOUs are signed, but it doesn't show up in the FDI numbers. So you need to attract more capital and you need to attract capital also in areas which are priority for you. Because if you give subsidies to something which provides, let us say, you given huge amount of land or huge amount of subsidies, as has happened with a lot of the PLI incentives, for example, with plants which provide very little employment. So you have to decide what your priority is, what you are trying to attract for. Is it, if you're giving subsidies in particular to attract investment, what are you trying to build R&D capabilities? Are you trying to give employment? What's your priority? Does that fit in or not? It cannot just be a headline thing. So those are the things as a country, you have to decide on your priorities.
You're looking at, so far we've looked at the flight of capital and then the reverse coming in of capital. What about the potential for domestic capital? Particularly, Okay, let me put it this way, that we have closed down all our regional stock exchange. That's part of the process that
Right.
happened over 20 years or more, right? Looking back, do you think that was the right thing to do?
Yeah, I don't think that is a problem. I mean, just to give you how far we have moved, when I started this business little over 30 years ago, 32 years now, it was, even a corporate membership of a stock exchange was not allowed. So I had to become a member as a proprietorship. Because it was that a broker should have unlimited liability. So there was no SEBI, there was no National Stock Exchange. So all those have been good improvements, because that is what has taken away a lot of friction and lot of lack of transparency in the market, that now everything is available easily. You know exactly at what price your transaction is going through. So those I don't think, removal of the regional... Yeah, sorry.
The reason I asked that is, you had, for instance, a company like Infosys. When they first came out, they were not fully subscribed.
Yeah.
Right? And
That's my favorite example of the difference between IPOs and the post-IPO performance.
Right. But the point is that they still managed to get the capital through, because they were known, and there was the regional sort of presence was there.
No, I mean, they got it was an underwritten issue. So the issue devolved on the underwriters. The underwriters made a lot of money.
But they also were, I remember they came around virtually canvassing at a personal level. So the regional stock exchanges enabled that. So even if you take the Ambani case, etc., the Ahmedabad Stock Exchange, I thought, did play a role. Or do you disagree?
I don't think, because, I mean, see, now the exchanges may not be regional, but you can still do the canvassing. I mean, it might be on the NSE or whatever, but I don't think that really makes much of a difference. And because you can do that exact mechanism of canvassing without the regional stock exchange. I mean, regional stock exchanges were mostly hotbeds of all kinds of corruption in terms of digging up stock prices and not paying investors, or what used to be called gala rakhna in Bombay terminology, that whatever the rate at which you actually do the transaction is not the rate you report to the customer, because there was no transparency. You could, I mean, the joke used to go that the real BSE brokers are those that even when their father gives them an order, they keep that margin.
Do you see the crisis in domestic savings as an issue, or would you think it is?
Not certainly an issue. I mean, in the last 15 years now, private capital formation has been stagnant. There's been no increase in private capital formation. Finally, in the 2019 budget, Nirmala Sitharaman accepted this as a problem. And in fact, you see a budget speech, he says that we are increasing public investment because public investment will stimulate private investment. That was the strategy of the 2019 budget. And we are now in 2025. But that has not happened. There is no data to suggest that there has been any increase in gross capital formation in the private corporate sector in these last 6 years. So there is a problem of inadequate investment in this country, which is why I draw attention to the fact that increasing number of Indian wealthy are taking their wealth out of the country. The numbers put out by Hurun Rich List, etc., 20,000 millionaires have left the country. They are now Dubai-based or Singapore-based or Portugal-based or they're based in different parts of the world. So there is in fact a flight of capital because there are opportunities that they're using in different parts of the world, while in fact we are a capital-starved economy. We need more investment. Our manufacturing sector share of national income remains stagnant at 16% of 15% over the last 20 years. There's been no net increase in the share of manufacturing. Unemployment is increasing, right? So there is a serious development challenge that we are dealing with at a time.
What's the economic variable you would try to fix for that? I mean, normally the argument would be that if there's such a crisis of capital, I mean, that your returns should be such that you would get more capital in, right? But if that's not happening, why, and what would you do to change that?
Demand is not growing. Across most manufacturing sectors today, capacity utilization is nowhere near 80%. So there is a crisis of inadequate growth. And because of inadequate growth, people find it better to invest outside in whatever opportunities are available outside. Because of inadequate availability of opportunities here, a lot of bright young people are leaving this country and working elsewhere. So there is a policy challenge at home of retaining and utilizing both human capital and financial capital.
How would you respond to that challenge? I mean, suppose you were
that was
Nirmala Sitharaman's place.
That was what we began with in the 50s. The whole project of economic development is a project of creating assets at home and reinvesting those assets at home. Instead of that, we are now increasingly creating assets at home that go and invest elsewhere. The best and the brightest of your students are leaving this country and contributing to the development of developed countries. So there is a problem of inadequate growth, which we are not talking about. I mean, what amazed me when I began working on this book was that the last time economists paid attention to this phenomenon was in the 70s. There's no literature after that. We have not looked at this as a problem. We are looking at this as an opportunity for all our children to go out. I mean, I make the point that the next generation of your entire political leadership, administrative leadership, armed forces leadership, business leadership is all emigrating. This is a phenomenon that is not adequately recognized.
I mean, what you said is very right. I mean, the way I have been talking about is that the GDP has been running on the single engine of government expenditure. It's as simple as that. Last few years, if you see, that's the exact pattern. And manufacturing as a percentage of GDP, very interestingly, from about 2007-8 to 13, was in the 17.5% range. After all this talk of make in India, we are now at, depending on the year, between 12 and 13.5%, which is the lowest since records began in 1961. Correct. We are as low as that. So, that is, you missed the bus. I mean, pre-COVID, the world was having a party. You had all these Vietnam and Bangladesh running out of capacity, and that was our worst period for exports since I've been tracking markets. It was our worst period for manufacturing. And remember, the export-oriented companies in India are the ones which provide employment, because those are the labor-intensive areas, which is why even pre-COVID, you were at a 40-year high on unemployment. And you're so right that all the people who talk about how great India is to be in, all the children are abroad. You look at, the entire list, and it is everyone's children are abroad, unless they have a business to come back to, or unless they're getting a election ticket. Nobody comes back. So it is like whatever you're talking about doesn't come through in the numbers. And you really need to, first of all, to make the changes, you need to focus that these are the changes to be made. But I do not think, we are happy with the slogans of Make in India, Digital India, just as we had those smart city things. We are not, and not even making our cities livable. Look at the pollution numbers. So how will you attract people from elsewhere in the world if you cannot provide the basics?
If you don't mind interjecting, see, the point I make in my book is there are 3 phases of large-scale migration. If you look at the data, in recent history, there are 3 phases of significant emigration out of India. The first phase, beginning in the middle of the 19th century, going on till the First World War, was essentially of the poorest of the poor, indentured labor who went to work on plantations across the European colonies. The second phase of substantial increase in emigration was with the Gulf oil boom and the working class going, particularly from Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Telangana, Western India, going to the Gulf, and literally in hundreds of thousands. But the recent phase, over the last 20 years, is what I call elite migration. That is, it's the children from business families, from upper middle class families, from urban areas, as I said, from Hyderabad, Bangalore, Madras, Pune, Gurgaon, Delhi. It's urban India that is seeing an emigration. So I look at this changing class composition of Indians leaving India. And while the emigration of the poor was a good thing in the sense that at least these people got employment opportunities outside the country.
And they remitted money because the poor always, their primary investment remains India. So they
India,
keep sending
exactly.
the money back.
But now the elite emigration, there is very little return on that happening. And that I think that is a policy challenge.
Before we, I think it's time to go to the audience, but before we do that, you have time? Okay, in which case, I'd still like to get back to what would you do as a policy?
I think
I mean, I know this is, there's no silver bullet, but just as a top of the mind, anything that you could
well, first of all, I would say that I would need to recognize this as a problem.
Sure.
I do not see any official statement, any official recognition of this as a problem. On the other hand, the government of India today is adopting an official policy of encouraging emigration. So Jaishankar, for example, launched a private initiative called GATI, Global Access to Talented Indians, GATI, launched by Sanjeev Bhikchandani of Naukri.com and Manish Sabarwal, who I think lives in Bangalore, which is essentially a private platform for Indians who want to go out. And this platform was launched by the Foreign Minister of India. Now, External Affairs Ministry has proposed a change in the Indian Immigration Act to rename it as Immigration and Facilitation Act. In other words, you are no longer only looking at management of emigration, which happens on its own, like the Gulf emigration happened on its own. People left, no government did anything to encourage Gulf emigration, right? People found opportunities, private dalals organized their movement, etc. Today, the government of India is saying, I will facilitate emigration. And it's become official policy. So we have signed a MOU, for example, with the government of Taiwan for export of Indian industrial workers, because the Taiwanese don't want too many people coming in from mainland China. They would like to diversify their working class, so they want to take Indians. We have exported Indians to Israel after the Palestine attack, because the Israeli industries wanted to get rid of Muslim Palestinian labor and started importing Hindu Indian labor.
And not only that, no one else wanted to go into a war-torn zone. Only India was glad to send its people
and we
there.
set up official offices in Delhi, in Meerut, in Jaipur, in Lucknow. Government offices were set up for people to come and apply for employment in Israel. So here is a government that is actually pursuing the exit of Indians rather than creating opportunities at home. So I think there has to be a recognition of the problem before we even deal with the problem.
And another thing, see, there are, every time before the budget, and the business channels will ask me, what is your ask for the budget? And I say, this, whatever I think the government needs to do doesn't sound very sexy, but that is, and it is long term. I mean, how did we get Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai and all that to the CEO rooms? Because you started the IITs in the 1950s. So these are all very long-term projects. So what you need to do is invest in health and education, and linked to that is employment. And India's spending, even as a percentage of GDP, is very low. And skills is also part of that. So skilling, education, health, and nutrition, I mean, still the figures of stunting and malnourishment in the country are so poor. If the children are malnourished, you will not have a population when they get to working age who can work. I mean, we are letting our demographic dividend just dissipate, because that's a limited period bulge. And demographic dividend is a product of three things. One is percentage of people in working age. The second is into the percentage of people who actually have jobs into the productivity. You have only the first one. Yes, you have a very young population, but you're not able to find jobs for them. So therefore, all policies have to look at that how is it that's going to help employment. And as I said, the long-term part is health and nutrition. The short-term policies like PLI also, you have to target to areas which have this. And MSMEs are the areas which are the entities which provide a lot of employment. And Dr. Sen, who used to be our chief statistician, said that post 2016, we had a loss of 1 million MSMEs. 10 million MSMEs, and said it should have gone up by that number. So you had a net deficit of like 2 crore MSMEs, which would have provided employment between the demonetization and then the GST and all that. So, I mean, we have to have a absolute laser focus on these areas. R&D is another area. All these areas, if you look at, first of all, China is at 5 times our per capita and our size. Still, as a percentage, they spend much more on education, on R&D. So, I mean, the gap between us and them is like 25 times.
Before we go back to the audience, just a quick comment. Do you visualize, just a yes or no would do, do you visualize a conflict between a global India and India at home?
There is
In
already a
policy
conflict. There is already a conflict because the global India now celebrates values which are holding India back. You know, whenever Modi goes abroad, you say all these chaps are lining up there and saying India is great, India is great. And I keep asking this question, how come if India is so great, you're not coming back? So in our political discourse at home, we are saying, oh, the world thinks India is great. The world thinks India is great living in the world outside.
Would you like to respond to that or any other final comment?
No, I mean, we should just, as I said, we are in danger of missing our whole demographic dividend bus. So we need to find jobs and which are beyond just the delivery person jobs to really and skill our population so that they can aspire to something better in terms of their lives. And the other part is to make the urban India livable again. Beijing had such a big pollution problem. I mean, their pollution numbers were off the charts, but look at them now. So, I mean, it can be done. I mean, much longer ago, I mean, decades ago, London, the water and air was extremely polluted, but countries have come back from there. So, it is doable.
I think we have time for just a few questions. Yeah, please. Could speak louder.
No, I can't hear.
Is it audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for the session. I just had a quick question. I'm glad that we brought up the Chinese and other economies as well. So I've noticed that the Indian public sector banks essentially have something called an SLR, which is a statutory requirement to invest in G-Secs, which is around 18% currently. So while other nations like China, etc., in the US, don't necessarily have such requirements currently. So I just want to understand your thoughts, basically, if you feel that this has been holding India back from becoming a attractive investment destination, and whether India's current strategy of controlled but systematic deregulation of banks will have positive impact in terms of India becoming a attractive investment destination.
I don't think, having a certain mandatory SLR ratio is what is holding us back. In fact, most banks hold more than what is mandated, which means they don't have enough avenues to invest elsewhere, at least on a risk-free basis. And banks are a highly leveraged institution. Yes, some checks and balances are never a bad thing. I mean, as an investor, people tell me, you keep repeating this, that I am a nervous investor in banks and lenders because it's an inherently precarious business. So some checks and balances don't, I mean, that's not what is holding India back, I mean, in short.
Hello. Can I? Yes. My question is for Sanjay, sir. What are your thoughts on how young people of India can contribute to the development of the country rather than just thinking about a minimum wage? And what can be the opportunities for young Indians to work towards the vision of a developed India, socially, politically, and economically?
Wow. Stay back. Well, stay here and build research capabilities in this country. I think this is an extremely important message for this generation, because the numbers of, as I keep saying, what is truly shocking to me is the growth in the business of exporting young people out of the country. It's a highly organized business. The number of institutions that have come up that are offering you opportunities to get out. You know, I mean, other day I saw in Hyderabad one van going with an advertisement, huge advertisement. You know, apply for visa, job assured. You know, citizenship assured. I mean, here we are allowing businesses to develop that encourage all of you to leave this country. And I'm saying, stay back. You know, there are opportunities here. If there are no opportunities, fight for those opportunities. I think that stake has to be there in the future of this country.
In fact, right now, just to add to what you said, and maybe a little tangential, but if I look today at many small businesses, small family businesses, the next generation says that I don't want to do this business. I want to cash out and manage the financial investment rather than do this too much jhanjat dealing with 30 different inspectors, and still there is not real ease of doing business in India, and you find a lot of the younger generation opting out, saying I don't want to manage the system, I just want to manage financial investment. So that's one other factor which is also causing kind of lack of private capital growth and all that.
Well, I wish we could have ended on a brighter note, but nevertheless, we just thank both Devina and Sanjaya for one last question.
Right.
But and also I think the ETFs and all, I did some study for my own, but I think there's a lot of premium now because of the RBI restriction on it.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense to buy those things at a premium, because the day the restriction goes, you'll get a straight hit. And because it is a cause for me, because I think Indians don't invest overseas, we actually have a product at First Global which invests across the globe, because US is not the globe, that also remember, and across all asset classes, which starts at $10,000. So that's less than 9 lakh rupees. Typically you won't get it at a private bank for less than $1 million. But as I said, this is a cause for me. So that's what I can do as a firm. Yeah.
Right.
You can close.
Okay, I just want to personally thank both Sanjay and Devina for a very interesting and I think very informative session.
I would like to ask one question.
Sir, we'll have to take this offline because we are running out of time. We need to keep schedule. They will be around, so you can pose your questions to them.
Sure.
Thank you once again. That was an absolutely engaging session. I request Mr. Satish Mendon, General Manager, Events and Activations, the Hindu Group, to kindly present mementos to our panelists and moderator. Just to remind you, the book signing will take place on the 5th floor, on the terrace, post the 3rd session. Thank you. Once again, big thank you to Sanjaya Baru and Devina Mehra, of course, with our brilliant moderator, Narendra Pani. Thank you so much. And we're down to our final session, the new laws of Manu, why the poor don't kill us. So please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, let's welcome the one and only Manu.